Once upon a time. Welcome to Australian Book Lovers, your destination for imagination.
Australian Book Lovers acknowledges First Nations peoples and recognises their continuous connection to country, community and to culture. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and honour the sharing of traditional stories passed down through generations. We're committed to a safe and inclusive welcome for authors and readers of all cultures and backgrounds, including people of LGBTQIA+ communities and their families. A big warm welcome to everyone and a huge thank you for joining us for the Australian Book Lovers podcast, episode 135.
Woo-hoo!
Our mission, woohoo! Our mission is to bring fabulous Australian and Indigenous literature that spans a whole range of genres to book lovers around the globe, as well as fantastic resources and information for passionate authors looking to write their next bestseller. I'm Veronica aka V.E. Patton, fantasy, sci-fi, memoir and picture book writer, voracious reader of many genres, your founder and co-host, coming to you from the absolutely beautiful Wurundjeri Woiwurrung country.
And I'm Laurie Bell, also your co-host tonight, coming to you from Wurundjeri Woiwurrung country. I am a science fiction and fantasy author, blogger, reviewer, writer, flash fiction writer, short story writer, pretty much a writer of whatever you can come up with, except poetry, because I'm terrible. So, and what episode were we at?
135.
Oh, my goodness.
135.
That
yes.
is amazing.
It is amazing. And dare I say, we start with our beautiful t-shirts here.
Yes.
I've got my fantasy. You've got your Read More Aussie Books ABL on, which is beautiful. And if people love the merchandise or want to support us, jump on in. You know, we don't usually start an ad this early in the episode, but what the heck?
True.
I'm not sure if you can hear that woo 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 going on. It is in fact one of the dogs. That's great. I love to have a good microphone. So let's move on with the woo 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 going on out there in the lounge room. Thank you, Gibbs.
What are they up to?
Well, Ian's gone to badminton, so they're up to probably stealing the cat's food out of the bowls and, you know, hassling something.
Because I've locked myself away in the other room since it's an evening show tonight. I have two little memoir faces pressed up against the glass. What are you doing? Can we come in?
This is lovely. This is lovely.
Yeah.
Now we have a very exciting interview that you did. Tell us a little bit. Give us a little promo.
Yes. So the amazing Scott Francis Sowter, and what was funny is, of course, he writes science fiction, and he actually has the SF in his name, which is it's like the marketing rights itself. It's magnificent.
Yeah, meant to be.
So we had a great old chat about sci-fi and all the bits and bobs that come with writing sci-fi. He has a YouTube channel with interviews with other sci-fi authors, and I did get a bit lost down the rabbit hole there. It was a lot of fun listening to.
Yeah.
And he has an amazing book that's only just come out in January that I think is a winner for title of the century, and I'm going to make sure I say it right because that would be rather rude. Criminal Cove: Home for Retired Supervillains, I should say. So yeah, we'll have a big chat about that. Oh, it's great.
Yes, and it made me go down a big villain writing hole. So more on that in a moment.
Lovely.
That's good. So stay tuned, everybody, for a little bit of that. And I wanted to say that going down, what are the characteristics of a good villain? And it came up under masterclass.com. So I had two sort of battling, and really that they're a little bit different. So in masterclass.com, and I don't know if you've done any of those things. I did the MK Jemison one, which is
I've done some
really good. Love that one.
Brilliant listening to.
Absolutely brilliant.
World
Love
building
that.
galore. Loved it.
Yes. Fantastic.
Yep.
So the characteristics are a strong connection to the hero, and of course, the villains are inextricably connected, as you do. Clear morality. Every villain needs to have their own morality. And if they spend part of their story killing people, you need to give them a believable reason for doing so. Understand why belief or desperation has driven them to it. So, for example, in Fahrenheit 451, Captain Beatty's mission is to find and destroy books because he believes that books cause people to reject the stability and tranquility of a life of conformity. And I must admit, I did watch the redo of Fahrenheit 451.
Oh,
I want to go
yes.
back and look at the original now. I'm not sure whether this has done its justice, but anyway, that's right. So we've got strong connection to the hero, clear morality, a worthy opponent. So they've got to be a strong and worthy adversary to your hero. And of course, having just cut out 2 chapters of my book, my latest manuscript, that were about the villain, I'm thinking, oh, no, I have to put it back in. But anyway, I'm going to hope my beta readers go, we don't really know the villain. So I'll just put it back in. Anyway, it's okay. And of course, a compelling backstory, of which some of these chapters were, in fact. So they need to be interesting and credible as well. And they should be fun. So
Yes.
I love that. And then in the same masterclass blog, which is masterclass.com, 4 tips for writing villains. Choose a real life model. Find someone to model your villain after. Could be somebody you know, a person from history, famous serial killer. Write a character sketch. Put yourself in their shoes. And so when it's time for your villain to act, put yourself in their place. Think about the challenges or hardships that might tempt them to behave badly. Consider their motivation. Just like with your main character, what's their motivation to unlock the rest of their character, their goals, etc. And then introduce a villain with a bang, a strong introduction. Send your reader a clear message that this character is malicious.
Brilliant. And I've got 2 interesting examples of that
Yeah.
with I'm actually writing to a school at the moment. I'm a author pen pal, so I'm writing to a
Yes.
school and they are doing fractured fairy tales. And
Oh,
they're
love those.
discussing the big bad wolf and whether or not he
Ah,
might have been innocent.
yes.
And so that's a great example for finding the motivation behind the wolf's backstory. Why was he doing what he
Yes.
was doing? Why attack the
Yes.
pigs? Why attack Little Red Riding Hood? It's like there's so much to drill
Oh,
into.
so much to drill into.
Yeah,
Great.
and another example, my Jerry and I, we watched the start of the new series of Daredevil
Mm,
on Disney Plus, and Daredevil and the bad guy Kingpin are set up as sort of mirrors to each other. So you get
mm.
right into Kingpin being the bad guy throughout the whole series. It's fantastic to have set up this bad guy as to have him in such depth and backstory and knowledge. And the actor Vincent D'Onofrio, he does an amazing job with making this character so realistic, but also so evil. And you can see every turn of why he would do what he does and how he
Mm.
reacts to everything. And it's brilliant writing and it's really brilliantly acted. So yeah, if you want to check out a really good super villain backstory,
I love Vincent D'Onofrio
yep.
in Men in Black when he
Yeah.
was Edgar.
Yes. Yeah. I loved him back in the old CSI, no, Law and
Law and
Order
Order,
days,
yes,
Criminal
was
Intent.
was also
He
good
was
then.
great
Yes, yes.
in that too. Oh.
I reckon the person that
But
has
anyway,
obviously
so if we're talking
written that
supervillains,
new series, yes, if they've written that series, they have been, I'm
yes.
getting this evil stare from the cat outside the window. I'm just ignoring that. They will have read the 4 great tips for writing villains, which is brilliant. I'm going to share
I would
with you
think so.
something from Dabble, dabblewriter.com,
Oh.
and I'm going to share that,
Mhm.
how to write a good villain, the full recipe. So this is a bit tongue in cheek. 2 cups
Okay.
of believable motivation, 2 packets of proactivity, a tablespoon of power
Mhm.
for larger stories, add more to taste,
Mhm.
a dash of immorality, a touch of tragedy, a pinch
Mhm.
of madness if you like spice. For a sad aftertaste, a
Mhm.
sprinkling of empathy. Combine all ingredients and voila. I thought, very nice. So thank you very much. How to
Love
Write a Good
it.
Villain
Yep.
on
Yep.
dabblewriter.com. So yeah, that was a bit more tongue in cheek, which I think is
I'm sure I've
great.
listened to a couple of authors talk about writing villains, and from what I
Mm,
vaguely remember, and this is coming from a mash of different authors and different
mhm.
writers, but I think the biggest thing that comes out of your villain and your super villain and all your bits and pieces there is that they are proactive. They act.
Yes. They
They
have agency.
they kick it off.
Yes.
Everything comes down to, the good guy more often than not is reacting to something the bad guy has kicked off.
Yes.
So it makes it an intriguing character. If you treat your bad guy when you're blocking them out as your hero, it just gives you those extra layers to the story. So it's really interesting.
Yeah.
I'm still working through writing villains, and certainly in Whitefire, my villains tend to be very over the top, which
Yes.
a lot of fun, absolutely. But perhaps I could have been more subtle. Perhaps
Okay.
we'll see.
So there is a school of thought that suggests that
Mhm.
as we get older, we prefer
Mm,
villains to heroes. That we,
interesting.
yeah, and I read that in a few different places. I thought, oh yeah,
Hmm.
actually that's a bit true because
Mm.
as you've just said, the good guys keep
Yeah.
want to keep things on the straight and even and balance and those kind of things. And I know,
Mm.
that was mentioned in your chat with Scott.
Yeah.
Whereas, and for me, that's about negentropy, whereas the
Hmm.
chaos and the entropy and all of the movement and that comes from people messing with the status quo. And that tends to
Exactly.
be the villains, or they're seen
Yeah.
as the villains. So
That
yeah.
anti-hero character where
Yes.
they really drive the initiating factor. Because very rarely do you have a hero suddenly wanting to change his comfortable life.
Yes.
Or perhaps they're not having a comfortable life and they want it. I don't know. Anyway,
Yes. And how often do they refuse those gifts and go, no, no, I don't, I won't do it. Whereas the villain
exactly.
goes, bring it on, more
Bring it
power to
on.
me.
Exactly. And
Let me rule
it
the
does
world.
give you, I can see it in the sense that the villain can quite often be the more, how do I word it, tasty character,
Yes.
particularly to write. You can really
Mm.
enjoy getting into that
Hmm.
space and
Hmm.
really going into, okay, if you don't have that stopping factor to stop you from doing the what the rest of the world would consider the wrong thing, what does
Yeah.
that do to you? And or it
Yeah.
makes it so interesting. It's so juicy.
Yes.
Villains can be
Yes.
juicy.
It is. Fantastic. All right.
Yeah.
So enough of villains.
Yes.
This is a word from, I'm only going to give you one tonight, The Dictionary of Obscure
Hmm.
Sorrows by John Koenig. I thought this
Okay.
was pretty spot on. Tillid, Tillid, which is an adjective, humbled by how readily you place your life into the hands of random strangers, often without a second thought. Trusting a
Mm.
restaurant to check its expiration dates, trusting a construction crew not to cheap out on the materials, trusting
Mhm.
thousands of other drivers to stay in their lane. People who you may never meet, but whose well-being you're deeply invested in, whether you know it or not. I thought that's kind of
Mm.
think when you think about
Yeah.
villains, they don't
Yeah.
see that. They see it
Yeah.
as their roles to mess with the other drivers,
That's
to,
true.
break the rules. So yeah,
Yeah.
Attila. So thanks, John Kearney. That's lovely.
Yes, there you go. But yes, I guess you could say like trusting your bus driver to be following the road rules, or
Yes,
or your train driver to actually stop the train on time. And
exactly.
oh, yeah, it's a bit concerning when you think about how much trust you put in other people without realizing.
In the hands of random
Ooh,
strangers without a
yeah.
second thought. Yeah. So
Wow, there
thank
you
you.
go.
Bringing that to our.
Hmm.
It comes from the Danish word tillid, meaning trust.
Hmm.
There you go.
There you go.
Okay, it's
Hmm.
time for some news, Laurie.
Yes. All right. Well, I actually wanted to primarily kick off with a reminder today for writers and authors who have books published, whether they're independent, whether they're self-published, however you've got them out there, doesn't matter. The ELR and PLR submissions, the application period finishes on the 31st of March. So if you've got books that have come out in the last year and you haven't yet registered for the lending rights, which is the educational lending rights, ELR, and public lending rights, PLR, authors will get a little smidgen of moolah come through for books that are borrowed in libraries and school libraries. So make sure that you've got your texts registered with the arts.gov.au Australian Lending Rights Scheme ELR PLR page. And if you don't know about it, because not as many people are as knowledgeable about it, the Copyright Agency also has payments to writers. So if you have books that have come out, make sure you get them registered under the Copyright Agency, and you will get a little splashback towards the end of financial year. And they also have a deadline of the 31st of March. So get onto that.
Brilliant.
And that is copyright.com.au.
Yes.
So
All
there we
good
go.
organisations that support us, which is, yes.
Absolutely. And when you are writers and it's not a lot of a lot of books selling at any one time, books at the library still go like gangbusters, and it's a nice little thank you from the government and from
It
just
is.
getting
They're
your
just
work out
supporting
there.
us.
So do it.
Excellent.
Do it.
All right, I've got
Yes.
some news from SA writer, writerssa.org.au, who are, of course, the state writing organisation helping all of South Australian writers and, of course, nationally. And if you're a member of one state organisation, you can get some subsidies for all of the other states as well. And Writers SA are particularly good because weekly they update the roundup of literary prizes, competitions, fellowships and calls for submission. So wanted to mention and the grants that are available. And first of all, Arts SA, independent artists and groups, entries close 1st of July, 7th of October and next year on the 2nd of February. And basically the grant supports the development, production and presentation of new works by independent artists and groups across all art forms. The funded activity may include playwriting, dramaturgy, I don't know what that is, creative development, manuscript draft and development and making work in the studio. Literature applications for the preparation of work for self-publishing will be accepted where a compelling case for self-publishing can be made, including a strong track record of published work or viable marketing distribution planning. So I thought that was really good. So yeah, let me just look up what dramaturgy is. I should have read that one.
Oh, and I should mention the ELR, PLR, they are taking ebooks and audiobooks now. So if you've got ebooks and audiobooks, make sure you get those copies registered as well, because you'll have a different ISBN number. So get them registered.
Okay. And
need to get onto the audiobook.
Yeah, get onto the audiobook. Dramaturgy is the theory and practice of dramatic composition. There you go. Okay.
Oh, there you are.
Who knew? So apologies to all those who write dramaturgy. Now, I do want to mention also that the City of Adelaide Arts and Cultural Grants is there on the webpage. Country Arts SA grants are there. The Car Clue Project and Development grants supporting young talent up to 26 years and First Nations up to 30 years, and the Independent Arts Foundation, small grants for young and or emerging artists. So you jump onto writerssa.org.au and have a look. And of course, they've also got fabulous events and all sorts of things. So I really do like this one. It probably will be closed by the time I get this episode edited, but it's the Caterpillar Poetry Prize. I mean, really, that's just gorgeous, isn't it? But it's entries are welcome from anywhere in the world, and it's €1,000 prize. Anyway, have a look at all those things, and I did have a lovely time thinking, oh, maybe I should apply for some of those. But anyway, I think that is all my news. I think that is probably enough news and time for some book spotlights.
our first book for today is A Night So Dark and Full of Stars. 12
Oh, I
Tales
love this.
inspired by the Zodiac by Nikky Lee, fantasy, science fiction, and horror, which I think again, as I was chatting with Scott, there's your trio, there's your trilogy, there's your fantasy, science fiction, and horror that all go together. So love it. So this one is about a half siren girl befriends a deaf boy. A vendetta between a teenager and her dad's stubborn ram continues into the afterlife. A hunter must atone for killing a god's sacred bull. A sacrificial maiden uncovers the secret of the wizards who rule her people. A new acolyte causes a godling to confront her past and her deadly gift. A Night So Dark and Full of Stars from multi-award winning author Nikky Lee, friend of the show, contains 12 stories inspired by the astrological zodiacs. From ghosts and gods to fae and folklore, Lee's blend of vividly imagined fantasia invites us to imagine alternative worlds, dark pasts, and far-flung futures as we gaze into the night.
Absolutely brilliant. All right. So Nikki's bio. Nikky Lee is an award-winning author who grew up as a barefoot 90s kid in Perth, Western Australia, on Wajak Noongar country. She now lives in Aotearoa, New Zealand, with a husband, a dog, and a couch potato cat. In her free time, she writes speculative fiction, often burning the candle at both ends to explore fantastic worlds, mine asteroids, and meet wizards. She's had over 30 stories published in magazines, anthologies, and on the radio. Her fantasy, sci-fi, and horror fiction has won 3 Australian Aurealis Awards, 2 New Zealand Sir Julius Vogel Awards, bronze at the Forward Indies Book of the Year, 3 Indie Ink Awards, and a Ditmar Award for Best New Talent. And we haven't finished with Nikki.
No, we haven't finished with Nikki, so I'm going to jump straight into The Rarkyn's Fall. So The Rarkyn's Fall is book 2 of the Rarkyn trilogy. They survived Mansers, they survived monsters, they survived the storm. With the mountains behind them and Ilridis on the horizon, they thought the hardest part of the journey over. They were wrong. Outlawed and on the run, Liz struggles to control her new and volatile magic, a magic that will destroy her. Her only hope, find the last remaining witch to tame it. Her only clue, buried in Ilridis, city of Mansers, capital of the empire. Together, she and Scar descend into Ilridis's underbelly and discover a warren of illegal magics and the monstrous legacy Lys's father left behind. As truth, loyalties, and magic clash, Lys must decide how far she'll go to exact justice in her father's name, and how far she'll fall to rule the power inside her once and for all.
And as you both know,
So
we
good.
both love that. And there was a fabulous review. It was a reward for Nikki.
It was,
Review
yes.
that we did a couple of episodes ago. which was
Reviews are rewards.
They are.
Book 3 is Out of Time, Roaring into Queensland in '69 by Bruce Lowery, a memoir. A rugged but true tale of an 18-year-old youth travelling through outback Australia in the late 60s. It was in the early hours of the morning that I suddenly felt an extreme tiredness that seemed to take over my senses completely. My now befuddled brain was struggling to function as I made my way off the road towards the cane field. If I can just get an hour of shut-eye, I'll be okay, I said to myself as I lowered my body to the ground. Oblivion took over immediately and completely. I slowly became aware of a strange sensation of movement all around me. Rousing myself from my slumber, I suddenly came to the realization that some furry creatures were scurrying all over my torso, and that one of them seemed to be nibbling at some of the unhealed scabs that still studded my face. Bloody hell, rats.
Ugh.
Toughen Up had
Thanks for
certainly
sharing.
become, I know, I'm like, little creepy crawlies. Toughen Up had certainly become the catch cry for a young teenager travelling rough throughout the back blocks of southern and western Australia. But nothing could have prepared Bruce for the testosterone-driven shearing sheds of the outback Queensland in 1969. Following on from Bruce's first memoir, Catch the Wind, From the Nullarbor to the Far Northwest in 68, this entirely new memoir faithfully records his always memorable, sometimes brutal, but often hilarious ongoing travelling adventures. Meet feared shed fighter Knuckles as he bullies his way through the shearing season with overwhelming menace and physical violence, while rouseabout car racing fiends Gaz and Bluey make the regular 50-kilometre trip to the pub the most hair-raising experience of a lifetime. Meanwhile, the extremes of all that hard work in the shearing shed demands a high-protein diet that was almost as difficult to describe as it was to digest. Bruce had left his home near Melbourne in search of adventure and respite from a broken heart. What he found was some of the wildest characters to be found in the Australian bush. Join Bruce in this rowdy coming-of-age tale set against the dramatic backdrop of rural Queensland.
Another wild adventure from Bruce. So Catch the Wind and Out of Time, Bruce Lowery emigrated from the UK to Melbourne in 1955 with his parents Bob and Effie Lowery and his elder brother Bob Jr. After a brief stay with relatives in Clayton, the family moved to Victoria's beautiful Dandenong Ranges, where he has had the good fortune to live ever since. His first book describes the second part, Out of Time describes the second part of his year-long adventure in the Australian outback. When Bruce returned home to Melbourne, he accepted a position as an office boy with the Australian arm of the German-Belgian imaging company AGFA, and he eventually rose to the position of National Sales Manager. Over the next 37 years, he participated in various Australian industries, including motion pictures, music recording, medical and industrial X-ray imaging, and printing. He is a life member of the Alinda Ferny Creek Football Netball Club, having enjoyed many positions that include player, coach, president, secretary, and chair of the Sports Management Group. He's a proud father of 2 much-loved daughters and a grandfather to 3 wonderful granddaughters. He remains happily married to his wife of over 50 years, Sue. There you are. Good on you,
Oh,
Bruce. Book number 2 out
yes.
and about.
Okie dokie. So, book 4, Agnes, A Childhood Betrayed and Reclaimed by Judy King, which is also a memoir. After a 30-year absence, Agnes is returning to Australia, the country of her birth, at the behest of her aging narcissistic mother. Having undergone a long period of psychotherapy, she now entertains a hope that burning questions will be answered, haunting mysteries solved, and buried memories encouraged into the light. Something has blighted her life since childhood. Something has cast a long shadow over her existence, affecting her ability to grasp at life fully, to develop sustained relationships, and to appreciate her own sense of self-worth. In a leafy suburb of Sydney, a chance meeting in front of her early childhood home resurrects memories of a traumatic event. This represents the moment young Agnes starts to realise and repress feelings of confusion, cruelty, and alienation from those who should love her the most. Agnes, A Childhood Betrayed and Reclaimed, is the revelatory true account of one woman's determination to grapple with and heal the ills that have beset her past. As the missing pieces of that family puzzle gradually fall into place, this brave woman's search for the truth is vindicated. Decades of mental health challenges, from amnesia to acquired dyslexia to self-limiting thoughts, are ultimately overcome and her irrepressible spirit released.
Fantastic. What a different
That's
memoir,
amazing.
isn't it? People's
Yeah.
experience so
Mhm.
different. Here's a little bit about Judy. Judy King grew up in Sydney. After a troubled beginning, she emerged in the 1960s to establish a successful real estate and property development business in Paddington. Selling up to travel the world, she settled with her husband for a year in London, where she divided her time between working in an antique shop in Kings Road, selling antique scientific instruments, and attending an art school in Lambeth. On the strength of her artwork in London, she was accepted back in Sydney into a 2-year ceramics course at the Sydney College of the Arts. Judy and her husband divorced after the birth of their son in 1976. More recently, she's divided her time between making art and renovating old houses in Mallorca. She currently lives in Solar in an old stone house she renovated with an orchard behind. a walker all her life, her greatest joy is to follow the donkey paths up into the mountains that surround the valley she lives in below. Doesn't that just sound
What
idyllic?
a great description. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thanks,
Oh,
Judy.
wow. Yes. And book five. We're going five again this week. So, Fame and Other Disasters by Maria P. Frino, contemporary. Fame is a double-edged sword, and nowhere is this more precarious than the cutthroat world of television hosting. Molly Edwards and Emma Bears Jones are inseparable. Two powerhouses of television, hosting rival shows on Shine Channel 33 and BBS 12. But years of friendship crumble in a single night. A scandal sparked by a reckless decision at an industry party that sends their lives spiraling out of control. In a haze of drugs and poor judgment, both women end up in bed with Richard, Emma's lover. Molly was first, horrified to find herself naked between her best friend and Richard. Desperate to forget the whole thing, Emma tries to bury the incident, but Richard isn't willing to let it go. He's drawn to Molly's tender touch and wants more, igniting a chain of betrayal. When Emma uncovers their continued tryst, her fury explodes across social media, transforming a private mistake into a very public spectacle. Apologies from Molly go unanswered, and the vicious back and forth between the two goes viral, dragging their careers into the mud. Sponsors pull out, viewers abandon them, and both women are left with a show, their hard-won careers evaporating overnight. Both women are left without a show, their hard-won careers evaporating overnight. Crushed under the weight of scandal and failure, Molly flees to Mumbai, India, seeking solace and purpose, hoping to mend her shattered life. Here, she had helped build an orphanage during an extended gap year, Tulip Treasures. But redemption is never easy, and a near fatal accident threatens to take away what little she has left. As Molly fights to reclaim her life, the question remains, can she and Emma ever reconcile, or will the wounds of betrayal be too deep to heal?
Wow.
That
And that
sounds
is a very
great.
different story from the
Yeah.
fabulous Maria P. Frino. Okay, so Maria's career is in using words to communicate. She's written and edited PR ads, corporate communications, and newsletters as a freelance writer. When she's not writing corporate communications or as a senior reviewer for the online site Weekend Notes, she works on her self-published fiction books. Her first published story, The Studio, is a short crime story. Xenia Station, A Billion Light Years, is her second short story. Love that one in particular.
Yeah.
Both are available as ebooks wherever books are sold online. The Decision They Made, her debut novel, and her other books are also available on mariapfrino.com. Weaving Words, an anthology she collaborated on, is also available as an audiobook, and that is on, of course, the Australian Book Lovers. And, not to be contained within one or two or three genres, Maria's young adult novella, Edward's Cat, A Magical Tale of Edward, his twin and a cat, has reached number one in children's fiction on Amazon. It's now a trilogy with books 2 and 3 available. And she loves to collaborate with other creatives, writing, editing, publish, or on podcasts. And also she is part of the inaugural crew for Sydney Authors Inc., a group she started with 5 other authors, a collective focused on creating a supportive community for local writers and providing a platform for authors to connect, collaborate, and share resources, particularly on helping each other with writing, publishing, and promotion. So you can follow Maria on all of the socials, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Facebook. So Maria, congratulations. That is absolutely fabulous. Another
Fantastic.
book out and
Yes.
about.
And isn't that interesting? We were talking about villains and what makes a good villain, and there's two
Yeah.
characters that I think could easily go either way. It'd be fascinating to read that one.
Yes. It's kind of,
So
for me,
those
it's,
kind of scandals, it's like who's to blame?
yes, it's a little bit
Mm.
reminiscent of the one with Reese Witherspoon and Jennifer Aniston. I can't remember
Mm.
what the name of it is, but it was very good, and I
Yeah.
can't remember who the bad guy even was in it. But
See that
yes,
kind of tension.
love
That's
that.
great tension.
Yes,
Oof.
yes, that sort of, ambition and she said, she said kind of thing. All
Yeah.
right,
Yep.
they are
Right.
our book spotlights. I think it's time for your fabulous interview with Scott.
Absolutely. Take it away. lovers, I am delighted to have with me today Scott Sowter, author of, and I love this title, so I'm going to read it in full, but author of Criminal Cove, Home for Retired Supervillains, which I think is one of the best titles that I've heard of late that has hooked me instantly.
I was like, I need it to sell the book. It was
Absolutely.
like straight
So,
off.
hello, Scott. So, it's wonderful to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you so very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Fantastic. Listeners, I'm coming to you today from Wurundjeri Wurrung country. Scott, where are you coming to us today
I am
from?
on Durragland.
Fantastic. So, I want to jump into your amazing book now, and it's only just come out. It was January, I believe. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
January 30th, I think it took off.
How has your launch gone?
So far, so good. It's been really successful. It's hard to sort of keep a grasp on everything because my publisher it's UK based,
hmm
which has made it
hmm
a little bit difficult into all the way over here in the colonies.
I hear you. I've got a very
England don't
small
give us a lot.
indie US publisher, so I
Nice. Yeah, yeah.
absolutely hear you.
So, but like I know Barnes and Noble is doing pretty well with it over in the US. Amazon sold out, which was cool.
Brilliant.
And I've got like copies to sort of sell signed and stuff, which has been going really well as well.
That's
So
great.
it's kind of everywhere, which is cool, except for like Dimmicks and QBD down here in Australia, who don't seem to really enjoy
Don't cover?
celebrating
Yeah.
indie authors.
I actually popped into my local Dimmicks and asked them to pop it on the shelf, which they actually did, which was absolutely
Oh,
marvelous of them. So it's worth popping in and
oh,
introducing yourself. Good to know.
that's
They
cool.
took it on
Thank you.
consignment though, so it's a slightly different
Yeah, which
process.
is fine. I don't mind.
Mm,
Just like help us out. We're here, and we
yes.
want our stuff in your stores. Like,
Yep, absolutely. And that is the thing with indie authors and we'll jump into it shortly in regard to indie publishers and indie authors and just it is a lot more work on our part rather than having the big guns do all
yeah,
that
yeah.
work for us. So let me talk about now we're going to pop up the cover, but which is a brilliant cover, by the way. Absolutely love it. I'm just going to read a blurb, and I had that right in front of me. There it is, right there. Let me tell you all a bit about Criminal Cove, Home for Retired Supervillains. In Criminal Cove, Home for Retired Supervillains, notorious villains find themselves confined to a high-tech, domed facility designed to keep their powers in check. Amongst them is Doc Shock, once a terror to New York City, now a frail yet cunning prisoner grappling with his own rusting body. Through the eyes of Morgan Winchell, formerly known as the Tormentor, we delve into a secret world of aging supervillains, uncovering hidden agendas, unexpected alliances, and the haunting regrets of a life spent in pursuit of power. This darkly compelling tale weaves together interviews, classified documents, and first-hand accounts, painting a vivid picture of the line between heroism and villainy. As past misdeeds collide with a desire for redemption, the inmates of Criminal Cove navigate their twilight years, forever tethered to a world that fears and reviles them. Discover the untold stories of the villains who shaped history and now face their ultimate reckoning. And this amazing book is published by Olympia Publishers. So tell me, Scott, how did you come about with this idea?
I used to be a manager of. Do you ever remember Sanity? Remember Sanity back in the day?
Yes, yep, definitely the go-to place for all
Yeah,
your
absolutely.
DVDs and CDs.
I was a manager at Sanity, and which was awesome, and it was like such a fun job.
hmm
And my background prior to that was film, so I have a degree in media, like writing scripts and making movies was what I sort of wanted to do. Had kids, you kind of lose the momentum with your film career when you've got
hmm
children and you're doing
hmm
all the film stuff yourself. And I was talking to a colleague of mine, and I think the Umbrella Academy TV show had just sort of come out on.
Yep.
Well, I'd read the comic years ago, and I was like, oh, it was like kind of refreshing because it was superhero stuff, but it was just different enough to be interesting.
hmm
And I'm like, I'm kind of
Love a
sick
good
of all the
superhero that's just rude.
yeah, right. Just like real. And
Mm,
I mean, there's nothing wrong with the kind of Marvel and DC thing. Like, I love those comics and I love those characters. There's
mm.
nothing wrong with it, but it's sort of like, okay, we're on the, 50th Marvel movie and they're all kind of the same now. What are they? And we were just talking about, and he was like, "Oh, what would you do differently?" And I'm like, "Oh, it'd be kind of cool if they were like all old." And I'm like, "Oh, that's not bad." And I started writing it as a script.
Hmm.
And then and that was in 2019, headed into sort of COVID, and it was like, and my wife was always sort of, she's my producer when we were making movies, and she was like, "How
Hmm.
the hell are you even going to make that?" And I'm like, So like, oh, maybe it's a novel, and
Hmm.
I went for it, and everyone was like, "Oh no, it should be like a graphic novel," and I'm like, "No, I reckon it's fine. I think it's fine. I think it can be a novel." And yeah, it took a couple of years to put it all together, and and well, here we are.
It could certainly have an adaptation down the line when
Yeah,
it
maybe.
goes crazy.
Well, hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yeah, oh, I can absolutely picture that with a graphic novel for sure. That the images
Yeah,
would
yeah.
be absolutely brilliant.
I'd love, and that was sort of part of my idea too. Was like we were talking about the indie author thing, doing marketing and stuff. Was sort of like, oh, I know I contacted a bunch of artists, and it's on the Instagram and stuff. If you go to my Instagram, you can see we had artists actually take passages from the book, read it, and then draw the character
Oh,
from that
fantastic.
in their style with their view of it, and
Well,
it's
the
pretty cool.
cover's very, it has that real comic book feel.
Yeah, it took a little bit of work to get to that cover, but
Hmm.
I love it. When I finally saw the final version, I was like, oh yes, thank
Yeah.
God. Okay. It sums
So
it up.
listeners, let me just very quickly tell you about Scott. So, Francis Sowter is from Australia, born and raised in Western Sydney. He graduated from Southern Cross University with a Bachelor of Media with honours in 2013. He's married with two sons. Scott has always wanted to tell stories. He has directed a number of award-winning short films, also writing an award-winning screenplay, The Final Ride of Samuel Crawford. So, let's see. How do I want to get in this? With a beginning starting with screenwriting,
Yep.
and it is a different writing style. It's a
It's
different
so
visual
different.
medium. How did you go with the change from script writing into writing a novel?
It was a learning curve. It was sort of a going from. I mean, I'd sort of studied within. I did like a basic kind of creative writing unit within my degree, so I kind of had the groundwork of how to go about it. And I think my biggest hurdle for me was sort of when you're writing a screenplay, particularly when I'm directing my own stuff. I don't put camera moves in and things like that. I don't really bother describing anything because I know what it's going to look like.
Hmm.
So it's just dialogue and stuff for actors to kind of get them on the same page. Samuel Crawford was the big leap forward where I wrote this fully fledged proper screenplay, and it won an award in America, which was fantastic.
Brilliant.
And then it just never got made here because it probably wasn't the right kind of Australian Western, I guess. Um, so yeah, like getting into actual prose of describing characters and having and doing all of that,
Mhm.
it just a little bit of trial and error.
Yeah, yep. How did you go with your descriptive scenes? Then, if that's not something that you focused on prior to.
Yeah, just again, trial and error, and also like I mean, I think in order to write well, you need to read well. So
Mhm.
I amped up my consumption of reading, which really helped.
Mhm.
And sort of and similar genre and stuff. I found Matthew Riley, even though he's not necessarily like, and I think even he would admit probably not the best writer per se,
Mhm.
but the dude knows how to write action. Like he
Oh,
knows how to
doesn't
write
he?
action.
Amazing work.
Yeah. And it's like, cool, I'm writing a superhero thing. It's like, all right, stuff's going to blow up and there's going to be bam, pool, pow. Cool. Like that's okay. You don't need
Mhm.
to write, not everything, I think, in literature needs to be a quest for intellectualism. That's fine. And if you're doing that stuff, that's great. But like books should be allowed to be entertaining. So why can't
Mhm.
reading a book be like watching a movie?
Yeah.
And once I got over that hurdle of like I don't need to impress myself. Like I just need
Mhm.
to have a good
Mhm.
time. And that was it. Like that was fine. It's like it's okay for books to be popcorn consumable media. That's okay.
Absolutely. And I think our genre is particularly well suited for that,
Yeah.
for sure, with sci-fi and fantasy and horror. And a little bit, oh, I hate to say more visual, but a little bit more visual in that sense of action sequences and big things blowing up and all
Yeah.
sorts of spaceships and fight sequences and who knows what have you. Whereas I suppose a lot of the very traditional Aussie writing with our brilliant crime
Oh
and
yeah.
oh
Yeah.
yeah
Yeah. We kill people in small towns better than any other country in the world.
yeah,
And
absolutely. And there is definitely a love for that in here in Oz, and the genre sci-fi it's smaller in Oz, which I think is why we have to reach out to
yeah.
the wider world in regard
Yeah.
to getting things
To
out.
go
But how did
abroad.
that go? Why did you decide to go with a UK publisher?
Uh, Purely they were excited about it, which got me, which was fine. I did the usual, submitting everywhere, got my
Mm-hmm.
rejection letters, which was a really nice
Mm-hmm.
experience. Like, because it was sort of like it's the rite
You
of
got the
passage,
board?
right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's up there.
Yeah.
Um, and that was cool. And then yeah, I got it was so bizarre. I got two publishers on the same day who were like, "Hey," and then
Amazing.
it was like, didn't expect this. So it was like a lot of
Yeah.
back and forth and figuring out
Mhm.
pros and cons, and it
Mhm.
took us a little bit to decide. But ended up going with Olympia,
That's
who have
great.
been fantastic. It still feels like, I guess, because this is a small publisher, like you're
Mm.
still doing a lot of that work, but at least like the books, it looks great, feels
Yeah.
good. It's in all the shops, it's everywhere it can be, which is nice.
Hmm. It's really great to have that first touch of your book
Oh,
when it arrives, isn't it?
so good. In a car park of a FedEx.
Really?
Because they got the package got delayed and I was getting anxious, and
No.
then like and there was like a storm coming, and I'm like, no, if they get left out in the rain, like what do I do? I don't know
Yep.
why I spiraled on it so bad, but it was the first one, right?
Yep.
So we're like,
Yep.
cool, like, keep it at the depot, I'll be there, and like
Mhm.
my wife and I like raced out to which is in the middle of nowhere in Sydney, raced out to the FedEx depot, picked up the box, opened it up in the car park. I'm like, and then like raced into the city to go watch Jaws at the Opera House. Like it was
Oh,
just the most
wow.
weird experience.
So tell me with your boys, do you have do you when you're writing and coming up with those ideas and designs, do you see the boys playing and think, oh, hey, this could be something I can use?
No.
No.
My kids are interesting. They're both fantastic. I've got one who is neurodivergent, so he has autism, and the other is neurotypical. So they don't play
Mhm.
well together at all.
Okay.
They're
Yep.
very, very different children. But they're both cool, and
Mhm.
I definitely I get excited by their excitement, particularly
Mhm.
the younger one who's 4, who is like clearly like a carbon copy of me at that age. Like my mother is constantly like, oh, I don't, it's just weird.
Really?
Like he so I was like monster obsessed as a kid and dinosaur obsessed, and he's like 4 years old and he's like, Dad, can we please watch Creature from the Black Lagoon? And I'm like, yes, we can.
That's amazing.
Um so yeah, he's like weirdly wise beyond his years. So I get a
Mhm.
lot from him in terms of like some of the stuff he comes out with is just spectacular.
Oh, that's brilliant. Well, back to your writing. I mean, obviously busy household with the kids. When do you find time to write?
So I typically nighttime,
Hmm.
I'll come into my office and write whatever I can of a nighttime. I have the advantage too of like going over to my parents' place. They don't live too far away, and
Hmm.
locking myself in there, like a study for
That's pretty good.
for quiet time. Yeah, every now
Hmm.
and then,
And
which
how
is nice.
long did Criminal Cove take for you to write?
It took a while. It was about 2 years, I think. Of and then like obviously adjustments and things changed as you go along. Like the idea morphs, and you think, oh, that might be better. Then you have to go back and fix things to kind of make it work.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think it was around 2 years of sort of the first go, and then a lot of adjustments.
So with your screenplays and the book going off to the publisher, what were those edit letters like with your first novel? Did the publisher come back with
Not a thing.
like
Not a
really?
thing. No, they were
That's
totally. It
amazing.
was amazing. They were totally cool with everything. And like, there's some
Oh,
wild stuff in the
wonderful.
book. Like
Mm.
it's bonkers. Like there's gross stuff. There's Like I have a warped sense of humor. It was, and they were totally cool with everything in it, which was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
That's
Because I was
amazing.
worried if it's like, oh, this is like, dude, let's tone this down a bit.
Yep.
No,
Yeah, that's wonderful. I wanted to ask, so what is your favorite book to read then?
my favorite, like my favorite book,
Mm.
I High Fidelity, Nick Hornby is my
hmm
favorite book. I adore that book. I read it like when I was in university, and like
Okay.
you're in that like period of your life where you're like, who am I? And I'm reading it, and I'm like, oh my God, I am Rob. Like, I have a record collection, and like it was weird. Like, yeah, I adore that. I've read that book. It's the only book I think I've read multiple times. Like, I think I'm up to like 3 or 4 times.
Oh, wow. Well, that's fantastic. Do you model any of your writing after any of your favorite authors?
Oh, definitely. I think when I like his so that sort of first person perspective, not that all of criminal some of Criminal Cove is first person because it's sort of told from the perspective of the tormentor. So he's
hmm
the novel is primarily in sort of third person, and then these like documents styles, so like letters and things that have been collected by the tormentor. But then when he personally gets involved in the story, it shifts to first person for
Oh,
those chapters that
fantastic.
he's present for, and having
Okay.
that but writing it out in that sort of insight where he's like judging other
hmm
characters, and there'll be like
hmm
brackets where he's like, but really I think he's an idiot.
So why the letters? Why break the book up into letters and different types of media to tell the story?
It wasn't a conscious choice at first. So that we first started where I was writing it, and it was sort of introducing Doc Shock in Criminal Cove, and like he's made of metal, he's literally rusting, and all he really wants is a can of WD-40 to kind of
Oh.
limber up. And then I had this idea of a document from the President of the United States, yeah, eminent domain, seizing property to create this facility for Criminal Cove, so I was like, I'll write the letter and I'll pop the letter in,
Mm.
and it flowed really well because it was sort of like, criminal infers that all these people are wrongdoers,
Yep.
and but Cove implies this like picturesque location where
Retirement village.
retirement
Yay.
village, which it's not. It's horrible, and then I thought that was really funny, and then it just sort of so I got to a point where there was then a witness statement about something that had happened, and then it just kept evolving where it just got
Mhm.
more and more interesting where you can have these tell a story, so exposition without. I think Lovecraft did it best, like
hmm
with that sort of exposition through discovery and through research.
hmm
So I
hmm
just went with it, and it felt right.
It feels like that would work really well for this kind of story.
Yeah, it
Uh,
fit really nicely.
yeah. I love it.
Newspaper clippings, and then you can write things from weird perspectives and
Oh, that's marvelous. It's interesting with the just the fact that there's been more of a focus in the movies with superheroes, with the MCU, with DC, with all of that kind of just bringing out the heroes and what gets them onto that journey. But it's actually really interesting when MCU decided to go with old Cab, so from the comics, and even though it was just a reference, it's they haven't gone in that direction before in the mainstream visual media
mm,
with older and dealing with
yeah, yeah.
older scenarios. And same with Wolverine when they brought
Oh
in
yeah, yeah. Old
yeah
Man
with
Logan.
yeah Old Man Logan, but also what happens to your superheroes when they are suffering
Yeah,
dementia
yeah.
and,
The end
and
of their
things like that.
life, and
Yeah, absolutely. So it is a really interesting topic to get into. What why why that direction for your book?
so two real reasons, I think, and two real inspirations. So one was the film Bubba Hotep. Have you ever seen Bubba Hotep?
hmm hmm hmm
Great film. If you
hmm
haven't seen Bubba Hotep, do yourself a favor or read the short story by Joe R.
hmm
Lansdale. Brilliant. Essentially about an elderly Elvis, which is just fantastic. And the second is I have this incredibly vivid memory, and I mean I was 18 at the time.
hmm
My grandfather had dementia, and he was this really really fascinating. Like I was his favorite, and I'm just
hmm
saying that. Like, sorry, cousins. Um, I was like, what was the war like when I was a kid? And I would ask him questions, and he would sit down and he would sort of tell me stuff, and he would like make up these stories about like fighting off, yeah, like which was turned out to be total nonsense because he was like a cook, like, but it was exciting for I was a kid.
Grandpa's
Yeah,
man.
exactly. So he never really spoke much about his time during the war and all this sort of stuff, and then he got dementia. And suddenly one day we're sitting around, we were visiting and we were sitting around the dinner table and we are like having tea with my nan was always like making tea and Anzac biscuits and stuff. And he was just like, oh, I remember when I was at Cowra, and we're all like, what? He was, and he was like, yeah, and the you know, the Japanese soldiers escaped and they got stuck in the barbed wire and we had to go and shoot them all. And I'm like, what? Suddenly he started telling these stories and we were like, what? So we looked into his military service and sure enough, he was at Cowra during the breakout, which is a huge little piece of Australian history. I think they made a movie about it back in the day. Anyway, and that fascinated me, like that like suddenly age unlocks these secrets.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he was always kind of a stern guy, and he grew up in an orphanage. Like his parents either I think had passed or weren't there, so as a kid he was in a Catholic orphanage, beaten by the nuns, that kind of classic horrible story. And all this stuff started coming out as he progressively deteriorated, including like he wanted a bike. He wanted a bicycle. So they bought him a bicycle and he would just sit in the backyard patting it. He couldn't ride it. He was 80. And then he got worse. And I mean, my grandmother, bless her, tried to keep him as long as possible in the home, and it was just getting too much. He was incontinent, everything. So they put him into a nursing home, and I went to see him, and he was only there 2 weeks before he died. He was just he just gave up, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And how horribly oppressive, depressing and oppressive. I made it one word, but anyway.
It fits.
Yeah. It is overwhelmingly like crazy how scary a nursing home can be. And that I think that always left an impact on me.
Yep.
It's in there.
Yeah, it sounds like that would be a really interesting way to take with your superhero genre what happens to them when they're deteriorating.
Yeah, because the media sort of image of retirement homes and nursing homes is this like picturesque, the last
relaxing,
your twilight years, and it is a glorified hospital. Like that is all it is. Like when you're in that kind of level of care, it's just a glorified hospital, and there's nothing nice about it.
Yeah.
So that like stuck with me.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that makes it interesting then to think of where your story could go, and do you have a sequel in mind? Is that something that you would think of?
I definitely have a sequel. I'm not writing it yet. I'm gonna let it sort of germinate. I'm working on novel 2. It's totally unrelated.
Okay.
Which is nice to write something other than superheroes for a minute. But I know where I kind of know where it's gonna go. And it's sort of like, but I don't know if I've got 3 in me. I feel like 2 is perfectly fine.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. And that's sort of where everyone's like, oh, trilogies. And I'm like, oh, I just don't know what the story would, like, if you're stretching it, it just becomes like I'm writing it to write it. And that's not cool.
Yeah.
Like there needs to be a story there. And there's definitely, like, it ends on a point where there is more, but I want to make sure it's worth telling.
Okay. That sounds fantastic. So what are you working on now? What kind of genre?
Oh, it's a horror. It's a total horror comedy. There's a lot of humor in it. I think I can't seem to avoid humor. It just comes out. So yeah, it's a horror. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I want to ask more, but I'm afraid to. Okay, so what is your go-to horror?
My go-to horror?
Yeah, what's your go-to horror?
I don't know. Horror would be my genre. Like I adore horror movies. A lot of my scripts were horror. I love like being scared, and I love scaring people. I think it's fantastic. And there's also something like darkly funny about horror too, which I really appreciate.
Yep.
So yeah, writing my first horror novel. I've got a short story coming out in a couple of weeks on Indie Reads, so it's exclusive to that platform, which is awesome. If you get onto Indie Reads, it's really good. Which is a horror short story. So that drops in a couple of weeks. So yeah, it's cool. I really enjoy it. I like creature features too. Like I'm a big monster guy. I've got my little
Oh, Frankenstein.
I've got my Frankenstein. I've got Nosferatu, Frankenstein, Cthulhu. I've got the Wolfman.
Wonderful.
I love monsters. I love what
Mm.
monsters uh, can be more than just monstrous.
Mm-hmm.
That there is a humanity to the monster is really exciting. Or
I
there can
think,
be a lack of humanity, which is why Dracula works so well, right?
yes. Well, I think that's why fantasy and sci-fi really blend well with horror
Absolutely.
because it's that whole fear of the unknown and what that can do to a person's mind, to
Yep.
them physically, all of that sort of thing.
Yeah, all the good, gross, gooey stuff.
Yep. Yeah. Um, so with your writing journey, so once you had your publisher and you'd gone through that whole process, how has your journey been since the book came out? Well, how long was it between, I guess, the your securing your publisher
Yep.
and the book actually coming out?
About a year and a half. So
Okay.
it was a long process. So there was a
Hmm.
lot of there was a lot of back and forth just on like literally cleaning the book up, formatting, all that sort of stuff. The
Yep.
cover and then negotiating the cover because the first cover I was really unhappy with, and there was a bit of back and
Okay.
forth around that.
Hmm.
And until we got to where we were,
Hmm.
because it's I think there was like a press to market it kind of more broader, and it was sort of like I'm like, you can't let a kid read this book. Like,
Interesting.
can't-
Yes. Yep.
you
No,
can't do
that's
that. Ooh,
actually interesting. So that was
I'm so
part
sorry.
of your publishing and putting that together. So it is very adult.
Yes, absolutely.
Hmm.
It's not for kids.
So what have you learned out of this process? This is your debut novel, your first book. Have you really learned something that you would then pass on to other new writers?
Don't be afraid to submit. Like, just do it. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. Like, don't just go for it. Like, seriously, it's no harm in it. And the other thing as well, as much as it sucks and as much as I hate kind of social media, like, do it, play the game.
Hmm.
But the best thing to do is find other writers like you and don't be afraid to like reach out, say hello, connect. Because like I have made like just since the book has come out, I've been much better at the whole Instagram thing, or bookstagram, and all that sort of stuff. I'm yet to do TikTok because
Hmm.
it freaks me out.
Hmm.
Anyway,
Yep.
um, but I'll get over that eventually. But like connecting with this just little group of like kooky authors and have built this nice little like group of us who are constantly sharing each other's stuff on Instagram and constantly promoting each other. And then one of the guys started Indie Reads, which was the idea of a platform where we can all lift each other up. That's purely community indie author based, and we're all weird fiction writers, so it's sort of it's become this thing that we're all now like feeding into and trying to
That's
grow.
great. Hmm.
So like find your people, just find your people and help each other, like share, like if we all one person succeeding doesn't mean everyone else fails, we all succeed together, right? So like
Yep.
work with people.
Yeah, it's not a competition.
No,
It's
no,
not like
absolutely
people
not.
will only read one book and you have to get their attention because that's the one book that they will read. Readers are voracious, and if
Yep,
they get onto, particularly genre readers, if they get into an area that they really enjoy, they are going to read everything.
yep.
So it's no
And like
competition.
work together. It's just
Yeah,
like just seriously, it's I think that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing to avoid
yeah,
is that, and
yeah.
I think it's a film thing is like it is a competition.
Hmm.
Writing is absolutely not that. It is you succeed together.
Yeah. And you spend so much time alone
Yeah.
writing the book, and you're in your own head writing that work that you're putting your heart and soul into. But so is every other writer.
Yeah.
And we all need to talk. We all need to
And it's
get out
great. And
there
like
and talk to
I've
each
like
other.
sounding boards. We're bouncing ideas off each other.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
fantastic. Like just yeah, find your people.
Do you have any specific audience that you go to for that first read? So beta readers or critique
I've
partners
got
or
just a group of like very dear friends that I will go to because they will
Mhm.
immediately call me out on my bullshit, like which is fantastic. I remember
That's great.
my best friend. He's much smarter than I am.
Mhm.
He's a like a brilliant dude. And I remember sending him like a screenplay, and he just sent back like a whole heap of notes. It's like you idiots! Like why would this happen? And I'm like, you're right.
Yeah,
Like,
you need that step back and then to have that person say,
Yeah.
Why did this happen?
Like, Scott, did you just write a scene where someone wakes from a coma and all these friends are around him? Are you stupid? And I'm like, yeah, I guess I am.
It is good to have that pointed out, but it can be a bit tough too, having uh, challenging feedback come back. How do you handle that?
I think I'm okay with it. I think I'm okay with it. I think I've got. I think university. I had a professor that I clashed with a lot, and that helped.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because you got someone marking your stuff who, and I think even like at the end of semester, I remember he gave me a copy of the screenplay of Pulp Fiction,
Oh.
and he'd written on it like, "I don't think much of you as a person, but you can write." And I'm like,
Oh,
"Well, that's nice."
well, that's it. That'll stay with you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm like, cool. It's nice to know that I'm a terrible human being, but at least he
So
acknowledged
you need
that
to
I
have
could
those
write.
blurbs up on the book.
Yeah, I should write. Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I
Not much of a
understand
person,
from
but
one of your question answers that came back to me. So what was, I think you put down your best response that you've ever had to your writing?
the best response I've ever had to my writing.
Yes, that your wife said something?
Oh yeah,
Maybe.
she was like, "What the f is wrong with you? Like, who even are you? This is disgusting."
But see,
And that
there
was
you go.
nice.
Like there's a brilliant blurb
Yep,
that
oh
would
yeah,
hook me seeing that on a cover.
yep. A mate of
My wife
mine.
said, "What are you doing?"
Yep, another mate of mine was like, "Wow, you didn't hold back for long, did you?" And I'm like, "Well."
Oh, that's absolutely fantastic. Are you going to continue into novel writing, or are you
Yeah,
planning on
yeah.
bouncing back to your screenwriting
No,
days?
I think I'm done. I think I'm done with scripts. I think
It's all too.
every screenplay I've got tucked away is going to be a novel now, like, which is
Hmm.
nice. I've got a back catalogue to
It's
get.
great to have all those ideas sitting there in the back
Yeah,
pocket.
like, there's a couple that are like, I think, like, I mean, Samuel Crawford would be like a dream to try and turn into kind of like an epic western, but an
So
Australian western.
pitch that one. Tell me what that one's about.
So Final Ride of Samuel Crawford was is a story about an older retired, once again me and the elderly, a retired bushranger
Hmm.
who got paid out by the government to murder his group, his
Oh,
gang,
yep.
and he's living a like shitty farming retirement in like North New South Wales with like a crappy dirt farm
Mhm.
with his wife and his kids, and a religious cult takes root in the outback who are traveling around taking parts of the Bible quite literally, and there's some pretty nasty stuff in there if you go and read the Old Testament. uh, and a local sort of official for the government in this town is like a fan of this old guy's, like, he likes the old stories of Ned Kelly and stuff like
Hmm.
that,
Hmm.
and basically hires him to go and it's an offer that's like will save his farm and save his family, and it's just too good to refuse. And he
That
finds
actually
this,
sounds like it would make an amazing novel.
yeah, he finds this young indigenous kid who's up on a rape charge which he
Hmm.
didn't commit,
Hmm.
and because his eyes are shot, he's old but he needs the money,
Hmm.
brings him along to sort of he worked as a tracker for this farm homestead,
Oh, wow.
like keeping dingoes off the property and stuff like that. So they go off together to try and find these religious nutcases that are hiding out in the outback.
Wow, that sounds fantastic. Yeah, no, definitely put that one together as a
Yeah.
novel.
So that one day,
Mhm.
the script's there. It's like done. Like,
Oh, um, so you were telling me that you write in your office there.
yep, my nerdy.
Yeah, I can see it's a little bit nerdy. I can see some dragons up there. Tell me about your office.
So yeah, so I'm a collector. So I've got like the Lego Dungeons and Dragons set,
Fantastic.
Castle Grayskull up there for
Mm,
any Masters of the
mm,
Universe fans. I got like the Jaws Lego set
uh-huh.
because of course I
Brilliant.
do, and
Yep.
then I've got the cabinet full of like bits and bobs. So yeah,
Nice.
I love surrounding myself with like all the nerdy stuff that I love and adore, like turtles and um. I've got like my Street Sharks. I don't know if any '90s kids remember the Street Sharks. I got them up
Mm,
there. I've
brilliant.
got like Last of Us statues and things. Anyway, I just love nerdy stuff.
Yep. Do you think
Yep.
that helps you write your fight sequences? Good
Yeah,
battle
totally,
sequences.
like trying to, I think, plan it out. And like, I've always been a comic book reader since I was a kid. Like, I've been Spider-Man obsessed. So, yeah, I think I like writing. It's easy because I love it.
Hmm.
I love
Hmm.
watching it. I love enjoying it.
Do you think you bring some of that visual artistry with the storyboards and that sort of thing to your writing?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm quite good at that
Hmm.
pacing and writing action and describing action.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm not as good at describing characters, but I'm getting better.
Well, tell me more about that. So, who was that? Some advice that was given to you?
Yeah, my wife, who's just a big reader, and she was doing my producing when we were making short films and stuff. So she's fantastic and will read generally everything, but usually with like, why did you do that? Like, why did you write that? That's gross. And because she's not a horror person at all, hates horror.
Okay.
So it's fun. Like, if I can gross her out, I know I'm on the right track generally. But she was like, she was like, initially she was like, you're describing people too much. She was like,
Interesting.
leave just a little bit to like people to just. And I was like, you're right. I'm like describing every character in like painstaking details. The first time I'm doing a novel,
Hmm.
so I paired that right back.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, that's good advice.
yeah,
So you mentioned in your bio that I read before that you've always wanted to write and always wanted to be a storyteller.
yep.
What spurred that, do you think?
I have no idea. I think so. I've got two older siblings by like a long mile. I was like the whoopsie
Oh.
baby much later in
Ah,
life for my parents. Like a solid 13 years and a night of
wow.
yeah, drunken. Anyway, so my the middle sibling, he has very similar taste to me, and sort of I think a lot of my taste was from him, like being like, oh, you should watch Transformers and Masters of the Universe and all these
Mm.
really cool like 80s things, because he's very much an 80s kid. And like my music taste and stuff too. Like he influenced a lot of, but my mother is my dad's not really a reader or anything like that. He sort of is sports, like he's just a sport guy. Whereas and my brothers are both sports guys.
Mhm.
And I think mum was just like, no, I'm gonna get one. So she would sit and read to me like
Oh, lovely.
constantly reading to me.
Yep.
And then I got into reading, and then movie making was sort of like I don't know how old I was. Mum took me to see Independence Day,
Hmm.
and I bought a magazine. I've still got it somewhere, and it was about the making of the movie. Of course, I'm a kid. I'm just like, the movie is just real, right? Like you
Hmm.
just don't have any conception of how it's put together. And I remember, and the magazine actually like had cameras, and like you could see. And I'm like, what? You can do this? That's how it's done? And I got given a VHS camera. So it was the old camcorder that you would put a VHS cassette in,
Hmm.
and I started making movies with my toys. So I had Jurassic Park toys. So like
Oh,
I was recreating
fantastic.
scenes from Jurassic Park with like my hands in shot and stuff like,
Mhm.
"Ram, ram, ram, ram." And and then I someone, I think it was an uncle, had taught me how to edit with a V. So you put the VHS camera into a VCR with a blank VCR in it. So then you play your scene from your camera, record, stop,
Hmm.
fast forward to the next bit, and then you can put it together like you're editing a film on a VCR.
Fantastic.
And then yeah, I started yeah, getting into movie making. So I was making movies at high school. We had a high school film festival, which was great.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, and I just kept getting into it, and then off to uni, and
Hmm.
so I was very movie orientated until I sort of left uni, and it got harder and harder to make movies.
Yes, yes, indeed. It's that's when you realize how important it is to have people who not only know their
Yeah.
craft, but have
Yeah.
some
Like, I am
money.
terrible at camera work. I'm hopeless at it, and I will admit it. Like, I could not tell you where to put a key light to save my with a gun to my head. I would just
Mhm.
shoot me. Like, but it's like finding those people, and you do find people, and it's great to work with those people. But like, those people are like, when you're writing and directing, the talented person who's really good with lighting, they are going to
Mhm.
get a job.
Yeah. Yep.
Like,
Yep.
because they're needed. One of my dearest friends in the world, best editor I've ever met. He's unreal, but he
Awesome.
went and got a real job, like,
Hmm. Hmm.
like editing stuff. Like, that's just the way it works. And then
Yeah.
obviously time becomes harder.
Hmm.
And then you reach an age where you're like, I don't even know how to meet other creative people anymore.
Yep. Yep.
It's like, I guess as you get older, like dating and stuff, it's like,
Mhm.
where are people? Where do you
Yeah.
even
Yeah, how do you find your
Yeah.
people? It's
Yeah.
as you said earlier, find your people. It's actually that's probably one of the biggest takeaways, I think, with writing is
Yeah. You
find
need
the people.
people around
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Particularly ones that have gone through the process, even if it's a completely different process, there's an understanding, I think, that is generated from everyone going
Yeah.
through some sort of creative endeavor.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, talk to people. Talk to people.
Mhm.
So I think that's where I moved away from movies. But
Mhm. Are there any secrets hidden in your writing?
oh, totally. There's like, well, mainly for my friends, which is sort of sorry everybody else. But there's like all my friends are in there, like they're named. There's so
Mhm.
many people who are named and killed horribly
Mhm.
because I'd kill
Mhm.
all my friends. So if you're reading it and a really nice character gets brutally killed, it's probably a friend
One
of
of your
mine.
mates? Yeah,
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 right.
absolutely.
Great.
So yeah, totally. Like yeah, there's lots of that sort of stuff. Lots of Easter eggs. I think every character in Criminal Cove is a sort of parody of a character from either DC or Marvel, and in
Mhm.
sort of a warped fashion. And I think
Absolutely.
they're sort of. I think that's just you could call it satire, you could call it lazy writing, whatever you want to do. Like, I just think there was something in it about,
Fun
like,
writing?
obviously, yeah, yeah, totally. Like, I was like, I love that stuff. Why not? But it's sort of like, yeah, I'm in a sense trying to critique that stuff, not
Mhm.
super intellectually, but
Mhm.
like there's something in it, like, well, what would happen if Iron Man got old? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah.
what would that guy? What would it be like if Captain America was suddenly like, we don't need you anymore? Can you just like go away? What would that be like for someone who had nothing but idealism and patriotism? And there's a character that I'm
Yeah.
very proud of who is very much a sort of, I guess, an allegory of like a Captain America character who was suddenly like, oh, look, we don't really need you anymore. What would happen to that
Ouch.
guy?
Yep. Yep.
Would he just go nuts? And yeah, he does.
Oh.
So there's a lot of like I think if anyone who is in if you're into comics, you'll be reading it and you'll be like, oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's that
Yep.
character kind of thing.
Yep. Oh,
Yeah.
so would you say that's sort of the message that you have in your book? Do you have a specific message you're hoping readers will take away?
I think it's more. I think the big like is just like how we treat the elderly and that and how isolating it can be to grow old.
Hmm.
Especially, and I think the part way through Criminal Cove, the people get out of Criminal Cove. Spoilers, sorry. Like they're not stuck there for the entire book. That would be boring.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
but like the world
An
moved on.
oldies breakout.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Love it.
The world moved on. Like, what would it be like if you were if you had this image of the world and then you were suddenly locked away in a hospital for 40 years and then you got out? What would that be like? And not only that, people are like, who cares who you are? Like,
Mhm. Yeah. Ouch.
so you took over the world once, whatever. You don't know how to work a payphone. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
it's so that was sort of the thing is like just that I guess the way we treat the elderly, and then yeah, tried to sort of the way I guess the world would look to an older person who doesn't understand how it works. And,
Mhm.
tried to. I mean, we've all tried to set up a printer for our parents, right? Like,
Turn the iPad on first.
yep,
Yes.
yep. I can't see me. Like it's just life.
Yeah.
I think that was fun to have the main characters experiencing life that way.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it makes for a really fascinating concept, and as I said, it hooked me immediately, and I'm really looking forward to
Well, I'm
that's
glad. I hope you
definitely
really like it.
bounced very quickly to the top of my to read pile. I can tell you that right away. What's the next 12 months look like for you?
I'm just gonna be promoting the crap out of this book and writing the next one is sort of the thing, and then yeah, working with other authors to try to put together some shorts and keep promoting each other, which will be cool. While I
Excellent.
work on novel two, I'm trying to get into as many comic book conventions as I possibly can because I feel like
Awesome.
that is the market for the book.
Definitely.
Missed out on Supernova, so but
Oh.
we'll figure it out.
Mhm.
They're surprisingly difficult to get into for authors.
They really are. Yep, yep. It's a whole new world, isn't it? When you move
Yeah,
from the
if
writing
I could
part to the
draw,
marketing part. What have you learnt there?
I think I'm still learning. Like,
Mhm.
I think I'm still learning how to make it all work. So
Mhm.
I have no wisdom to offer other than yeah, find people who will talk about you for you.
And for those listeners, Scott has a fantastic YouTube channel that has some. Are they actually on a channel? I know they're up on
Yeah,
your
they're
website.
just on my YouTube channel. They're on
Yeah.
Instagram and stuff. We're all just sort of sharing them back and forth. It's just the idea of like a Q and author was what I came up with, and it was just basically me and another author, 5 questions. We don't know what the questions are, and we just ask, and it's just totally blind.
Yep.
And that was the concept, and it sort of works. So I've done 4 so far. I've got a bunch lined up though with other authors. I was meant to record one yesterday, but she got sick.
Oh no.
No voice. So we'll keep going. It's just a fun way of like then I'm promoting their book, they're promoting my book. Everyone wins.
Yeah,
And we
so
all
definitely get onto that YouTube channel or onto Scott's website. So Scott, where can people find you online?
Yeah, so I'm on so website is sfsowter.com.au, where you can pick up Criminal Cove if you live here in Australia. Overseas, pick it up wherever you can pick up books. Barnes & Noble, Amazon, go nuts. Instagram is probably where I'm most active if you want to like chat and talk books with me. Instagram, so it's at sfsowter. Facebook is at Scott Francis Sowter, and YouTube is at sfsowter.
That's fantastic. I love the fact that your initials, SF, just lead into science fiction for you. So
I know, right? I got
it's
lucky.
great branding. It writes itself, doesn't it?
Fluked into that one. Thanks, Mum and Dad.
All right. So one last question then for you. What is your ideal sci-fi concept that you would just you've done superheroes retired home? What's your next idealized concept that you're really thinking about one day you might put to paper?
I definitely have a science fiction idea, and I have a fantasy idea. The science fiction one I'm really excited to play with, and I will definitely, I mean, I've started it in that sort of like when you have work in progresses and then you false start and things like that. So I do have have an idea for like, a proper science fiction, spaceships, battles, epic, cool stuff. I do have that
already
there.
on my list. Already on my list. All right.
And I do have a really cool fantasy idea that I really, really adore and that I'm really excited about, but I don't think I'm a good enough writer yet. But one day.
Interesting.
One day I know I'll be good enough to write it, and it's all fleshed out in my head. I've got copious notes on it. I know. I I reread Lord of the Rings last year, and it's like, no, I can be better, and I will work and practice, and then one day I'm gonna write this fantasy thing.
Yep.
And it will be great, but I want to practice first.
That's really great advice, because I was going to ask you what would be your advice to writers out there that are on this journey and wanting to put something together. And that I really like the way you've put that. Sometimes you do need to be in the right place at the right time with the right idea and feel capable. And that's fascinating to me that currently you'll get there, but that idea you want
it's like at the moment I don't think I just like with life and time and raising 2 young kids and to put together that kind of dense fantasy. Fantasy, I think you need to reward the reader with that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's like one day I know I'll be patient enough to do it. But at the moment, colostomy bag jokes and superheroes punching each other is definitely where my maturity level's at.
Nice. I like it. That's my kind of go-to story. So
nice. So yeah, I'll get one day, but yeah, but patience in it too, right? It's like if I rush it now, what's the point? Like it won't be what I want it to be.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fantastic advice. Well, thank you, Scott, for coming on and doing the
This has been such a
podcast
cool
for us
chat. I've just
today.
enjoyed talking books with you. It's been
I absolutely love it too. I am definitely going to be keeping my eye on your website and what comes out in the future. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. So thank you, Scott, for spending the time today with the Australian Book Lovers podcast.
It's been such a pleasure. Thank you guys so much for putting me on your show. I'm really grateful.
Thank you again to the wonderful Scott Sowter for his interview with me, talking all about Criminal Cove, Home for Retired Supervillains, and what I still get hooked on just the title of his book,
Yes.
because there are so many superhero stories now, and there
Yes.
are so many, so many movies and so many focused on various individual heroes. And the one thing we didn't get with old Captain America when they had him for 2 minutes is that they only had him for 2 minutes. So you actually don't see how the age of a character is going to affect their superhero lifestyle and whether they can continue to save people the way they do. And same with villains. It's like,
Yes.
if the villain doesn't get killed, what happens to them when do they actually make it to old age? And what happens then? We're an aging population all over the world. So
Yeah.
it's a bit of a scary thought of
It
thinking
is.
of like manic evil characters who now suddenly have dementia.
What
That's
a
not going to end
combination.
well.
No, indeed. But if you want to read Scott's book, of
Yes.
course, it is one of the books that we're giving away in our
Yes.
next newsletter. So I'm about to announce to the people who won from my last newsletter. But yes, Scott has very kindly donated us a copy of Criminal Cove. So again, one
That's
that I'll have to
brilliant.
keep my little mitts off and make sure that it goes to one of our listeners. And if you want to get onto that subscriber list,
Yes.
AustralianBookLovers.com/booklovers and subscribe. All you need is your name and your email, and you can be part of the hundreds of bodies who get access to free books, which is brilliant. And of course, authors,
Yes.
if you want to jump on, get your book on the website, just go to /for authors and you can put in your book there. And again, all of that is free. We are mad, really, to give all of this away for
We
free,
are.
but
I
such is
know,
life.
it's brilliant.
And
Oh,
if you'd like to
we
support
just
us a
love
little bit
books.
with a couple of dollars, by
Yes.
all means, please, give us a couple of dollars a month or
We need a
one-off.
postie fund.
One-off. We do need a postie fund.
We need a postie fund. There are so many books we need to send out to people.
Slowly going broke, but
We need
that's
help.
I wish I was independently wealthy, but such is life. You got to do
Wouldn't it
what
be
you
great?
love.
Well, you're not a supervillain, so
I'm not a supervillain,
you
no.
know.
I don't think I'd be very successful because I'm way too
Mm,
nice. Way too
yeah,
nice.
same,
All right, and
same.
I love that.
Mm,
Scott likes the Umbrella Academy because I also like the Umbrella Academy.
yes,
The
so
Screen
good.
First, I know a number of our writers come from
Mhm.
writing screenplays and short films, so he had a steep
Yeah.
learning curve. I love that he said he wasn't quite ready to write a particular story. He's holding that
Yes.
in his
Yeah, I
heart.
love that comment.
And
hmm
I think age unlocks secrets. Love that
Yeah,
because it
yeah,
does.
yeah. It really does, and I loved hearing Scott talking about sitting there and listening to his grandfather, and
Mm,
my papa went through a similar thing that we didn't know about until he actually wrote down some details and
mm,
passed it to my dad and my auntie,
mhm,
and you just
mhm.
think the stories they keep and the stories that come out
Yes.
after the fact, and
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
is really fascinating.
Yeah, it is
Mm.
brilliant. And in fact, it is very isolating to grow
Mm.
old for many. I will
Mm.
have to just bring to task and say not all residential aged care facilities are as
No,
his experience has been. I
no,
must say
that's very
that
true.
we work really hard in lots of places, particularly public sector Victorian,
Mm.
because we have different ratios and those kind of things. And
Yes. My nana was in a
but
great place.
yes,
She always was laughing and carrying on and fighting over the winning chocolates, which she
yes.
probably shouldn't have been eating. But
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah. But when his dad is or his granddad was obviously at the end of his life, and that is a really traumatic time, and it's very hard to
Mm.
support families in that when they're
Mm.
coming to terms with, the anticipated grief and
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
person is becoming a person that they don't know with, dementia
Yeah.
or Alzheimer's. That so yeah, aging can be very ignominious. It can be
Yeah.
frustrating, and it can be very sad. But
Well put.
you can also grow old. One of our fabulous volunteers, he won't mind me saying, Max Primer, who is a brilliant volunteer and helps
Mhm.
us out at Central Highlands. He has a podcast called Aging
Oh,
Disgracefully. And I just love it because he
I'll
is
be looking
ready
that
to
up.
just bring it on, aging disgracefully. So yes, Brilliant. But thank you to
That's
Scott. That was
fantastic.
a great
Yes.
interview. And we won't say that we cater fisticuffs over who was getting Scott, but that's okay.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I was only bruised for a while. It's fine.
Okay. However, that
Yes.
those
However,
thoughts about age
yes.
have bring me to the quote that I have,
Yes.
which is
All right, go for
from
it.
the absolutely fabulous Diane von Furstenberg. Do you know Diane von Furstenberg?
No.
No, okay.
No.
She was a Belgian fashion designer, and if you ever saw one of her frocks, she did the wrap dress, which is the crossover, a little bit flare of
With the
A-line.
tie.
And
Yep.
yes, that's the absolute
Yeah.
classic von Furstenberg. But she wrote, and I have always loved this, my
Mhm.
face carries all of my memories. Why would I erase them?
Oh, that's nice.
Isn't that nice? Because I thought,
That's
yeah, I've
nice.
got quite a few memories on my face. And I thought, yeah, my face carries all of my memories. Why would I
Yep.
erase them? So yeah,
Yep.
that is brilliant. Thank you, Diane von Furstenberg.
Yep.
Yeah. What have you
Takes
got?
me to my nana with all her lovely crow's feet that would just, you
Yeah.
knew she laughed. You knew she
Yes.
laughed all day, every day. And
Yes.
I adore that. I love it. So mine was a bit of a sci-fi quote from Ray Bradbury. So science fiction is any idea that occurs in the head and doesn't exist yet, but soon will, and will change everything for everybody, and nothing will ever be the same again. As soon as you have an idea that changes some small part of the world, you are writing science fiction. It is always the art of the possible, never the impossible,
Yeah.
which I
It's
like.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he did write some absolutely brilliant sci-fi. Let's
Mm.
put it out there.
Yeah.
Good on you, Ray.
Yeah.
Yeah, including Fahrenheit 451, which we kind of started with, and here it is again.
Exactly. That's why I
Come the full
thought we'd
circle.
wrap up. Oh, beautiful.
Nicely
I'll
done. What a
claim that
segue.
was completely planned and storyboarded up and not happenstance.
Yes. No, I can absolutely see you. You're so organized, Laurie.
Yep.
Yes, it's
Yep.
just
Yep.
brilliant.
Totally.
All that remains to be done is to sign off and leave people
Yes.
to go and listen to the next podcast, to jump on the website and buy a book, to go to your library and buy a book, or if you're an author, to register your book for the PLR, ELR, and just keep writing, peeps.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So we just need to
So
remind
we
you
need to
to
remember to read
read more
more Aussie
Aussie
books.
books. Fabulous. Thanks, Laurie. Bye for
Bye for
now, everyone.
now.
Let's meet again when magic happens.